What radio? The music you want.
With your host, Keys Dan.
Would you like a cup of coffee?
RadioWhat.com. What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability, get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me. Yeah, me, Keys Dan. At your next event. I like to play music for the people. Video dance parties, karaoke jams, weddings, corporate events. You know, I like to play for you. Let me entertain you. Today on the program, Jameel Williams, Casual Business Moves. Found him on Instagram, and he looks like he's got a story to tell. So you got that to look forward to in your ears in the next few minutes. Stick around for that. This week's shows, well, it's Saturday as we're recording this, and, well, I have nothing tonight, and that's kind of exciting. A Saturday night off. It's been a long time. I might go off to Blackwood's Landing in Conway, Arkansas, and go visit with Deshaun and the Electric Current. That's a new place. They had karaoke last night with Brock Forness, and they have live music. So it's a little... Well, not such a little restaurant. It's probably a medium-sized restaurant, but then they set up a stage on the side of it. So it's Saturday after Thanksgiving, after Black Friday. It's Small Business Saturday, and Blackwood's Landing on Hark Rider in Conway, Arkansas fits that bill. They're a small business. So go support your small businesses today. And every day, for that matter. Small businesses, you know, a lot of times the moms and pops, the small businesses of the world, they're the ones that are going to treat you nice. Sometimes it might be a little bit more expensive, but it's the service. If something breaks, they're going to bend over backwards to get you fixed up. So, yeah, support your local small business. I say that. I shop online myself a lot. I'm guilty of it, no doubt. But, you know, brick and mortar, it might go the way of the dodo one day and be a thing of the past. But while they're here, hey, support your local business. There, I'm going to do it. I do it. So, yeah. But yeah, shopping online is just so easy. All right. Next week's shows. Let's see. The public shows. On Thursday, I'm at the Old Post Barbecue in Russellville, Arkansas from 6 to 9. The video dance party, karaoke jam, family friendly. Come on out. Good barbecue. They got frosty beverages for the adults, but you know I keep the music family friendly. So bring the kids, bring everybody out to the Old Post Barbecue Thursday night from 6 to 9. And then on Friday night, my usual Friday gig, I'm at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. They have the full bar, the kitchen, pool tables, foosball, shuffleboard, darts, the giant Jenga game, giant checkers game, and of course me with the video dance party karaoke jam. That's Friday nights at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas from 8 p.m. until close, which is almost 2 in the a.m. usually. Yeah, come on out. The Rab. And then Saturday night, I think I have a private event on Saturday night, so don't need to tell you guys about that. What I do need to do is get into it with Jameel Williams from the Casual Business Moves. Calling Jameel Williams now.
Hello?
Well, hello. It's Keys Dan with the
man,
What Makes You... Oh, it's so good, man. Keys Dan with the What Makes You Famous podcast. To whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?
You have the pleasure of speaking to Jameel Williams.
Jameel! Give the people a little idea of what Casual Business Moves is and who is Jameel.
Well, Jameel Williams, man, is basically, you know, a guy that's come into his own, been a businessman. I've always been a go-getter, man, someone who believes in the community. And right now I'm trying to do more to help the community, after being a detriment to the community back in my days.
Okay, expound on that. Sounds like there's a story to tell. We've got time, my man.
Okay, well, first and foremost, I want to say I'm far removed from the person in this book. I spent 12 years of my life not knowing if I would ever make it out to tell my story. So I don't condone the same violence I once took pride in. And, like I said, I'm looking to do prison reform now. But, growing up, I was extremely violent. I beat 3 attempted murder cases. I ran with a notorious gang. In my later stages, I came into a friendship with Benzino, and that opened up, a whole new world. As much as I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars in the streets and using my gun on a very regular basis, dealing with the Source magazine brought me into rubbing elbows with the stars. It brought stars just coming around on a regular basis, but it also put those stars in the same type of violent atmosphere that I was always used to having. So, sometimes those two paths, cross.
I know Jameel Williams, that the rich and famous, the stars, the people that are in the highlights, the candles that are burning the most bright, to coin a phrase, they sometimes live their lives very fast and very free. And sometimes the lines between wrong and right get blurred quite often. You hear these stories all the time where he got caught doing drugs. He got caught robbing a convenience store or even a clothing shop because they didn't know any better. They're so used to getting their clothes for free, to getting things for free. They don't know what money is. So you start running with those people, and the lines start getting blurred. Now, where did you grow up? Whereabouts is all this happening, Jameel Williams?
Well, the story, I was born and raised in Boston, Mass. So the majority of my stories take place in Boston, and I grew up in the Dorchester section probably for my first 12 years, and then I moved to the Mattapan section. And,
for those that don't know, including myself, what are those sections? And, geographically, and I guess we all know Boston. In accordance to that area, north, south.
I would say Boston is probably made up of 5 sections. Now, when I say 5 sections, we're probably talking about a span of 15 minutes of driving down the main avenue to get from one end to the other. But you have to understand, within those 15 minutes of driving, at the time back in the days, there was gangs on every street corner. So even going five blocks, it was dangerous. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. So even going 5 blocks. So gangs everywhere.
I was basically saying, if you was to walk 5 blocks, even if you was to walk 5 blocks up, you would have to go through 5 different gangs.
Gotcha.
So, it's the danger aspect in Boston was always at a heightened pace, no matter what time of day it was, or the time of year.
So you're leading me to believe that the only way to survive, to live in some kind of safety, is to join one of these gangs. And is that what you did? Well,
that's basically how my book comes about. Like, I grew up in 3 different sections of Boston, basically, and I was cool with 3 different gangs. And I wasn't really involved in anything. And then at that time, it wasn't really, to the extent of picking up a gun or hurting anybody. It was just, a bunch of kids that like hanging with each other. So later on in life, when I did move to Belknap, where, the gang that I eventually ended up claiming, the other 2 gangs that came into a place where I had to pick and choose, and they made the choice for me. So after that, I just went full force on revenge.
All right. So tell me more about this. How did this manifest itself? Your life of not so good doing, Jameel Williams.
Well, you have to understand that I grew up in an environment that it was all around us. It's not something that we take pride in, but it's something that you see on a regular basis. It's something that becomes the norm to you. So if you walk out your house and you're facing violence, then basically you're going to want to pick up arms and, be able to protect yourself. So with all the violence going around me and then me becoming a target with someone else, coming at me, I felt like I had to pick up arms. I felt like I had to protect myself. And I've always been the type that, I take things a little bit too far sometimes. So when I did pick up arms, I took it to the fullest extent. I wanted to be the toughest person in the street.
Oh, yeah. You see it in movies. King Kong has nothing on you. You see that, and you want to emulate that. You want to be the strongest.
I was one of those guys, man, but I just wasn't working with the police. But
Right.
I was one of those guys, man, tried, proven, and respected in the streets, man. And, when you see me and my boys coming along, you knew there was a chance that violence could kick off at any given time.
So Boston in the surrounding areas is a tough place to live for some people, including yourself, Jameel Williams. And what years was this? What year were you born? Let's put it that way.
So I basically came out the house early. So, I came out the house maybe when I was 13, 14, selling drugs. And, I say it in my book. I didn't really have to do it. I came from, a basically well-off family, man, middle class, man. A lot of my aunts and uncles, man, got in with the computer scene when it was first coming out. We had computers in the house when they first came out. So, a lot of them are well off. And I came from the same cloth, so I didn't have to join the life. But it was something about the streets that attracted me. It's something that was calling me. It seems like they was always having a lot of fun, and everybody else that wasn't in the streets wasn't, and just hanging in the streets is nothing good that really comes about it. So you start picking up bad habits, and that's one of the habits I picked up. And hanging with bad dudes, you start doing bad things.
So was there any school life at all? And how was the home life? Were you getting any guidance at home?
Well, as far as guidance, I two different worlds again. Like my father used to be in college, went to UMass, was in church, was one of the guys, man, around the neighborhood doing things, helping, became a firefighter, and then got on drugs. And went to the full extent. I'll get into that later, but yeah, he went to the full extent of drug use and the things that, come with drugs. And, as a little kid being exposed to that, man, basically I was in a position where being in a bed with my father one time, hearing about him committing murder.
Jameel Williams, now you're at 13 years old and you say drugs. Drugs is a very subjective thing. A lot of drugs that were illegal back then are now being legalized and regulated for safety reasons, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
If you're growing something on your own and you're not being regulated by any kind of it might be a government agency, of course, would be the most widely expected, but if you're growing it on your own, you never know what you're going to get. But now it's being regulated. So you say drugs. What kind of drugs was your father into? And then at 13, what did you start getting into and selling?
Well, he was at 13. Like I said, I was in the bed and hearing him talk about he committed murder. So he was at that time. I think he was doing crack cocaine. and then he graduated to eventually doing heroin, and then it eventually graduated to sticking the needle in his arm, and eventually ended up dying. So he probably died when I was 16, but by 13, he was, by I say 10, he was a distant person in my life.
So between 13 and 15, you're seeing all this. You start a life of your own where you're starting to delve into the drug dealing, but then your dad takes his life. Your dad, I'm guessing, overdose? What was it that did him in?
Well, just years of drug use, man, deteriorating. And yeah, man, he died he didn't overdose, but just the drugs took an impact on his body and his life.
So at 15 years old, a young Jameel Williams witnesses this. His dad passes away. What does that make you do? I mean, some people could take one path where you'll not do anything, go on the straight and narrow, and then some people take the other path and follow in the footsteps. Where did you go, Jameel Williams?
You have to understand, he was a distant memory from 10 years old. So I started selling drugs at 13. By 13, I was carrying guns, and then I was in the field. By 16, when he died, I didn't even care to go to his funeral. I was that deep in the game. Like, it didn't really have an effect on me. Like, but the mother, my mom's just got married to her long life partner, and after maybe 5 years, and they've been together 37 years. So I did have a father figure in my life, but it's just, we clashed as well. So that wasn't a figure for me to look up to, as Okay. So I was by myself. I left my boys. I basically ran with my boys, and they were my brothers, the people I learned from, and where I got my habits from.
Well, you took the route where the people on the streets or your friends became more important to you than your actual family. I mean, how was your mom growing up? And you say you clashed with your stepdad a little bit, but was he a decent person, or did he try his best, or how was that, Jameel Williams?
Well, he definitely tried, man. And he's a good guy. Like I said, they've been together for 37 years. So obviously that shows some type of commitment and loyalty. So, for making my mother happy, that makes me happy. But my mother was a hardworking lady, man. She went to college, got a nursing license at like 20 years old, became a registered nurse, and provided for a mother and a father. So she was everything to look up to, man, and everything I needed. I didn't grow up needing anything.
Yeah, so it sounds like mom was doing the job.
She was doing the job. I just, when you don't have a father figure, I didn't have the guidance I didn't have the guidance that I needed to be in a straight path. But also I think that your environment plays a lot in how you come about. Because my kids live in an environment, the suburbs, they don't know anything about gang violence. They don't know anything about streets, period. So, that's never even a idea in their mind to want to become that, So and your environment plays an important part of who you are.
You're so right, Jameel Williams. That's what we want for our kids, to be better than us. And if you had a hardship, you definitely want to steer them in the right direction. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. That's skipping ahead way forward. But we're at a young Jameel, 15, 16 years old, and you're finding your father figure on the streets. Who was the guy that guided you into the life that you led?
Well, I think that, basically...
And you don't have to name names, especially if it's going to get you in trouble, of course.
I was going to say that I came in, like, the gang that I ran with, we didn't have a leader. So it's like everybody was their own man. So you made your decisions, and just coming up with each other, it's like you get to, everybody acts the same. it just becomes normal. So the things that people might look at and be like, wow, that is just in the light that you can't imagine. To me, it was just like a normal day. So I really can't say I looked up to anybody. I just raised myself, and the people around me had influences, that I might have taken in.
All right. So you had people that you ran with that you learned from each other. So, all right. What kind, quote unquote drugs were you selling? What was it that you were getting into? Were you taking the drugs yourself? And then, where did everything go from here? And how did it all go askew?
Well, as far as drugs, the only type of drug I've ever partaken in was marijuana. So around my neighborhood, taking drugs and anything other than weed is like frowned upon. Like I was maybe 18 before I even really saw what dope looked like. In my section of Boston, people didn't do heroin, so it was just mainly crack cocaine. So with the crack cocaine, I was selling crack at like 13. That means neighbors, that means family members, that means everything. At 13, I was out there.
So is that the stuff that really was the hardcore of what you were doing at that point?
Well, at 13, well, I say early, from the 80s, mid 80s to like, I want to say the early 90s, crack cocaine was like an epidemic, and that was sweeping all across America. And, it was in every inner city. So, yeah, that's where we made our money. That's how we supported ourselves, and that's how we got all the fortunes that we wanted at an early age.
Okay. So I still didn't get the timeline on this. What year were you born?
So I was born in 76.
Okay.
And I probably, like I said, came out at 13. So probably the late 80s, early 90s was my year.
All right. So
really, early 90s.
Were you still going to school, or was school done for you by this point?
Well, that's the thing is, school-wise and academic-wise, I was always like above the rest. So I've always went to, high-touted schools. Believe it or not, I went to Mission High School, which was a Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, it was stuck in between two projects on different sides of Boston. So the kids in the projects used to get grants. So the school was basically a gang haven. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Anything. In other words, anything but a Catholic school. So, and we had one of the best basketball teams. So that allowed us a freedom to get away with doing anything else we wanted to do.
I can see what you're saying, because
right.
A lot of times they treat athletes like kings and queens and princes and princesses, to where they can get away with a lot of things, and it affords you the freedom to do
right.
all the things that you're saying that you're doing. So Catholic school, I went to a Catholic school. What happened?
Let's just say the year they was closing down the school. After the season, almost the whole basketball team was expelled.
Oh.
So they had enough of us throughout the years. They was like, okay, there ain't going to be no basketball scholarship. Okay, it's over.
Oh, okay.
But I ended up going from there. I ended up going to another touted public school. So in Boston, they have like 3 public schools that basically you have to take exams to go in. And they basically handpick their kids on, their academic performances. And, my test performances were always good. And I ended up getting into Snowden International Copley. And that's where I ended up graduating.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so you graduated high school, and then what happened? Did you get out and put everything behind you and go to college, or you turned a different direction?
So all throughout high school, I was gangbanging. So you have to understand, by the time I graduated high school, I had already, been heavy into gang activity. I had already shot numerous people, and I was knee deep into the streets. So actually, I ended up shooting my classmate right before I graduated. One accident, but whatever. But yeah, so that's how deep I was in. And shortly after I graduated, I believe I ended up going to prison.
Oh, okay. So what ultimately did you in that they convicted you, and how did that manifest? Before you went in, what was the trial like, and then after you went in?
Well, no, at which time? So when I went in,
the first time, I guess. Now I'm learning about multiple times.
Well, the first time I went in, a guy I felt like was being disrespectful. He was selling drugs in my neighborhood. So I went out there and I stuck a 4.5 underneath his chin and told him, "Listen, don't ever be around here again." So I left him. I robbed him, left him, went back around the way, and he came back with a gun searching for me. So I guess he thought he was going to catch me off guard, and I jumped out on him, caught him off guard again, and I told him, "Listen, you're around, you're messing with the wrong person. I would take your life if it wasn't in front of my people's house." And he gave me a casual answer, and I went back, and I eventually ended up shooting him. Yeah, it was a little crazy back then.
Well,
but
shoot dead or shoot injured?
So I just ended up shooting him. I think I shot him in the shoulder or whatever. He ended up getting caught with the gun. He ended up telling on me. A guy he was with told on me, and the guy I was with ended up telling on me. So I was on the run, and that's when I ended up going to D.C.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on the run in D.C., and that was a whole another different life.
So tell me about that, Jameel Williams. You left Boston behind, Boston and the surrounding areas, in the late '80s, I'm guessing. And
no, this is '94.
'94.
So yeah, around this time, we probably had gang violence from '92. We had been warring with the Greenfield crews. Like I said, I grew up in 3 different sections. And one section was Belknap, that's the gang I chose. The other was Greenfield, and that's the gang I ended up warring with. And there was another gang called Riff. The Riff didn't really have too many issues with, but Greenfield and Belknap had an ongoing war forever and a day. So that's when I moved over to Belknap. Was basically, they're like, "Okay, you're a Belknap dude now." And so I had to choose. And
so you got absorbed from one gang to another, and you had a choice to make?
So you have to understand, all the people I end up shooting and basically eventually catching a murder case and all that, those are guys that I grew up around. These were my childhood friends. Okay.
Now you're making me think about was this accidental? I mean, was there anything intentional?
Everything was intentional. We was at war. It was they trying to. Well, they never shot at me personally. In the whole war, they never shot at me personally, but they shot my friends. They shot at other people. So when you're at war with 2 gangs at war, things you're trying to kill each other. You have to understand, people think of the war in Afghanistan, don't understand that same type of war happens in the inner city every day.
What I'm thinking about, Jameel Williams, is this is more like a civil war. You could actually have family members fighting against family members. You're in the same city.
That happens. And that happens in my book. Family members getting shot, and I have to have family members on that side of the gang, and that happens
in everywhere in the city, especially in Boston. Like we have a big Cape Verdean back in Boston, and all the Cape Verdeans are connected, all cousins, and they all shoot each other.
That is crazy,
So
man. That is just it's insane to me outside, looking at it from the outside, man. The only yeah, go ahead.
If you're, like I said, when you're not around an environment that violence is of the norm, it seems crazy. You know, it's like, wow, man. But if you're in an amusement park and you go out and you just live in an amusement park and you're like, okay, well, you just become normal to that. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, well, I'm used to kids running around. I'm used to hearing all kind of noises. It's the same thing about the inner city. Like, you might see people, you be like, okay, my friend that I was talking to last week, he's dead. And life goes on. You see, that's just how it is.
Man, it's amazing what humans can think of as the new normal. You know,
it's a twisted thinking. It's a twisted way of thinking, and it's just, you know, it's just a society that we grow up in, man. You know, like I said, it's just your environment. Wherever you are, man, it's going to dictate how you become as a man. You know, if you're used to being around people who work every day, then more than likely you're going to be working in the same job working. If you're used to people who are smoking weed every day, guess what? 9 times out of 10, you're going to be smoking weed. It's just who you hang with and who you gravitate to.
All right. Well, as you say, the heat was on in Boston, and you made your getaway.
So I went to D.C., and at the time, D.C. was the murder capital for 10 years running straight.
I have heard that. I think I made a class trip back in '86, and they were still saying it was the murder capital of the world.
Right. So, you know, I went down there, and like everybody was making money. It was just, you know, a whole new world. And actually, it was a relief to me because I had been gangbanging for years, and now I really didn't have to watch my back. You know, even though I was in a violent environment, I really didn't have to watch my back. So I ended up hooking up with my aunt, and back then she was making like $100 an hour in '94. You know, she was doing computers and teaching them how to program computers and all that. So
that sounds like a way to go.
What? So that's what it was. She was starting a business, and she was like, listen, I want you to be able to, I'm going to train you. So, you know, I want you to be able to train people to learn how to program computers. We're going to have a course. And basically, once everybody's finished the course, they're going to be able to making $30 an hour. You know, in '94, that was good money. Still is. But, you know.
It still is, yes.
Back then, that was great money. You see what I'm saying? So,
right.
I was psyched. On the other hand, I also got linked in with a guy down there who was probably pushing 7 to 10 keys a week. So he's like, listen, you come down here, you can come with me, and listen, we'll do 60-40. So me being a goon, I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity for me to just come out here and start a new world. You know, and I was out there and, you know, little violence, whatever, but unfortunately, before all those things could come into, you know, to what my vision, I ended up going back to Boston to get everything I was supposed to get, and that's when I ended up going to jail.
Oh, so why did you go back to Boston? You were trying to. I
was going back. I was going to start my whole life again. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave Boston alone. I'm going to be up here. I'm going to do this a little bit, and then get into the business. And then once I start making money legit, I'm just gonna, you know, turn a new life around. But I went to Boston to get my little things that I needed, you know, for, you know, the living up there. And I said, let me go back around my way one time. And I went around and didn't even last an hour.
They all knew Jameel Williams was back.
Yeah.
So how did that manifest?
They had my picture on the inside the police barracks, but yeah. So I ended up. They thought I was going to go
to prison for a long time. I ended up catching a break. I ended up doing like a year and a half. I came back out. So now, you know, I'm dead broke, you know, coming in, man, heavy into gang violence, you know, just going crazy around town. I'm starting to build a reputation for shooting. You know, I already had one, but now I'm really starting to build one. And that's when our crews end up forming with Benzino.
Well, Jameel Williams, you said you ended up catching a break and you went to jail for a year and a half. That doesn't sound like a break to me. What were you convicted of?
Well, I was convicted of a gun charge, and I think they dropped the attempted murder. So I think they dropped the attempted murder now, or they broke it down to intent. So I was facing 18 to 20 at the time. So a year and a half is, you know, a break when you're facing 18 to 20. So, you know, I ended up going upstate. You know, I was 18. I was just turning 18 at the time, so I ended up going upstate. And I think I came home around like 19.
19. Broke, back in Boston, back home with mom, or so find your own place?
I came home to mom. She held me down, broke. Came home living to my mom. So in 94, she moved away from the Belknap area and, bought a house over near Ashmont. But right before I did leave something out. So right before I got locked up, that's when I ended up catching a murder case.
Okay. And how, what, where, why, how? How did this happen, well, Jameel Williams?
You can Google that. That's, Jameel Williams Milton case in Boston, Mass. But, like I said, we was two gangs going back and forth, man, from, I want to say 92 to 94 before my incarceration. And we're talking gang violence every day. Yeah. So we might be talking 4 or 5 shootings a week, between the two crews. We're talking numerous people going to, getting shot. So me shooting people and me shooting guns wasn't, unusual. The cops knew that was me. I was hunted by the cops. They always, every time I caught a case, they was there. So, I had a couple of shooting cases before my murder case. But 10 days before I caught my murder case, one of my best friends was murdered. And one of my best friends and a female was murdered.
So where did life go for Jameel Williams from there? You got out of jail. You're 19 years old, living with mom. You got people dying around you.
Right. So no money, wasn't into selling drugs. I stopped selling drugs probably when I was 17. So it just hanging, and then we started doing check scams. So we got into the check scam. There was something that people in Boston wasn't, familiar with, and we was.
What is that?
So we was basically, just doing ATM scams, getting checks, putting them in the ATMs, getting $2,500 a hit. So that's what we did. We lived off of that for a while, and then it got bigger. And then when we turned into an enterprise, we started making hundreds of thousands, and then it turned into, we had even more millions coming in. So
this is how you're making your living. This is how you're making your money. And does your mom know anything about this?
Well, you have to say, when I first came in, I'm fast forwarding, but when I first came out, I was broke, still doing the gang violence, and that's when we met Benzino. I was probably around 18 at the time. Just started hanging at the local bar. He was part of the RSO group at the time, and just the atmosphere of that, and wasn't really too much going on. But the next year, that's when Dave Mays came around, owner of the Source magazine. And that's when things really started moving. And at the time, Dave Mays was probably worth tens of millions.
Yeah, Source Magazine, quite a big a big publication, and you're involved with that. How did that manifest? Were you working for him, working with him?
So Benzino ultimately became, because Benzino was still around when the first publication came out. Because Dave Mays started the publication in Boston, Mass. A lot of people don't know that he was going to Harvard University at the time, and Benzino and Made Men and at the time they was RSO were big supporters of the magazine of getting it started and launching it. So once it did become, up to 10 worth tens of millions, he put Benzino down, and that's when Benzino kind of let a little bit of money flow through the rest of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. And then what was your involvement? You were...
Well, my involvement was just, I was a cool guy. So my team, I never worked for the Source. I was offered a job at the Source, but by the time the Source really took off, I was making like hundreds of thousands.
Doing the check scheme.
I didn't need a Source job, but what I used to do is, if I wanted to get out of town or I needed a break, I'll call Benzino. Hey, listen, I need to get out of here. Hey, don't worry. There's a flight already set up in your name. There's a guy at the airport ready to pick you up in a limo. The hotel's already paid for. Don't worry about the tab. There's an S500 over there when you need it, and we'll be over here doing an event. So there's probably like 30 of us entourage that could do that.
Okay. So, all right. So you're involved with a pretty good crew, but how did that go south?
Well, I had the best time of my life with the Source. I can't say that with self. I think throughout the years, the gang violence kind of, it kind of died down. But we had other little things. It's like when one thing died down, something else would come about, like the Paul Pierce thing or the Rough Riders. We had a fight with the Rough Riders or a fight with Fat Joe down in my, there was never a time of just relaxing. There was always something going on.
Yeah, I'm looking and I'm kind of refreshing myself with their Wikipedia page, and I see Mays and Benzino having beefs with different people, Lil Kim and Def Jam and L.A. Reid and all that stuff. Yeah. But so there was, but that's in 2005. Is that where you're skipping ahead to?
Well, this is all my stuff happened before then. So
okay.
we had a famous fight with Rough Riders and Made Men and Stabbing at TD Garden, and I believe that was 98 or something, maybe 98, 2000, 99, 2000. So we had a famous fight with Rough Riders. Then we had a fight in 96 with Fat Joe. So it's like throughout the years, we had fight with everybody. Like there's a lot of people we could name. Yeah. You'll be like, wow, like all the way to Marky, like, Boston. If you went through Boston, we had a stay of you coming through here.
So what's all these fights about? Is it? I'm guessing it's all money. Usually that's what the fight is. Is I'm not getting enough of it. You're getting too much of mine.
A lot of it had to do with a respect factor. Like we felt like we ran the town, and there were certain rules to be, you had to go through if you lived in it. And so, like the Paul Pierce situation, Paul Pierce kind of was trying to get at a female friend who was a cousin, and we had just got into it with him the night before, so that was like the warning sign. So it was just something that he got into it with one person, and it wasn't meant to get out of hand. But if we're 30 deep in the club and one person, you know what I mean? It's like things get blurry.
All right. The life of Jameel Williams, casual business moves.
Well, let me make it clear.
Please.
You have to understand that half the people involved in the Paul Pierce issue are still, Celtics diehard fans. Like no one knew that was Paul Pierce when it happened. Like maybe two people out of the whole group knew it was Paul Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
It was just being a friend in a fight. And, it's like, okay, we was always that type. Like, if one person got into it, everybody got into it. We just stuck out for everybody. That's how it was. So when it went down, no one really knew what was happening until afterwards. And then afterwards, the lights came on. Everybody's like, that's Paul Pierce. Of course, now chaos breaks out, And a lot of people that got locked up for it didn't even do the things that they said they did. So there was a lot of that. And Willie McGinnis was who was cool with us, was instrumental in basically, calming down the situation. And after a while, Paul Pierce became cool. It was never an issue where someone was jealous of Paul Pierce, someone wanted, money from Paul Pierce, or Paul Pierce was trying to act tough. I think it was just a situation of, athletes coming in, in the inner city and not really recognizing who they're talking to. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Paul Pierce had his own start. He, from Inglewood and all the way to the Boston Celtics, man. So
he's from Inglewood. So when he was being disrespectful to a female, and her cousin came over to protect her, and he said something smart, and it just turned violent from there.
Yeah.
And most of the people that jumped in, like the main guy that ended up getting locked up for it, they'll tell you to this day, I don't even talk to those people. I don't even like those people that jumped in. Like, he's basically in jail for people that he doesn't even handle.
That's a quick decision. That's what it is. It's not thinking before you do, and
right.
And it changes his whole life. Right. A lot of those decisions, I'm guessing, changed your life. Jameel Williams, and
it made me have to grow up fast, man. Now I'm around a whole different type of people. I'm around businessmen. I'm around politicians. Around people who make a matter in how the daily structure goes on in Boston. So it's all, like I said, it's all about your mind state and who you want to be surrounded with, man. And as a youth, a lot of the times these decisions are made for you. I was catching cases at 13. Like we talked about the marijuana factor. Mm-hmm. I was getting locked up for a joint of weed when I was 12. I was getting locked up basically for a sip of liquor on the ground when I was 11, 12. These are things that they systematically lock you up for, just to, create, a sheet on you, for later on in life, So when you do get locked up for something important, they're like, oh, that's not this first time, but these are things that don't happen in the suburbs. So you have to understand the lifestyle we live in and the structure of the environment we're put in.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Jameel Williams. We do a lot of things when we're young. We get influenced a lot when we're young. We see people that are older doing things, and whatever our environment gives us, whatever choices we have, sometimes it's the easiest choice. Oh, I can make how much money? I can live this easily. I can get that car and those shoes if I do this and that. Oh, but the cops don't think that that's good. The law says that that's bad. Oh, but your figure, the person that's leading you into this, you respect them because you don't know any better. You are young, but thankfully we do age and we do have the ability to change and expound on ourselves. So it seems like you're growing up. Okay, you were getting involved with the wrong crowd up and through the late 90s. Where did it go from there, Jameel Williams?
So I want to say probably I ended up going to jail again. I got back out, and by the time I got back out, probably 98, that's when my crew was really making a lot of money.
What were you convicted of at that point?
At that time, it was a failure to report. A failure to report to my probation officer.
What was the original thing? Was it, you were still on probation from the first time in jail?
I was on probation for the shooting case, and I had a probation officer that was on my case like the second she had a hard on to lock me up the second I came on. So the first day, it's funny because the first day I come home from jail, I go to her office. I have a Sherlin on. She asks me, where did I get money to buy that? I'm like literally like less than 24 hours out, and she's already suspecting me of, doing wrongdoing.
I think that's what they get trained to do. They look for things.
Right. So, I always had an issue with her. And the only reason why I didn't get locked up probably earlier is because I ended up getting a shootout and I got shot in the back and the bullet exited my neck.
Now, I did hear something about this. That was when you were 20 years old. What year was this?
Yes, I was 20 years old, like right before I found out I was having a kid.
What?
My first son. So if I would have died, I would never found out I was having my first son.
So I guess we didn't go into that. What is your personal relationship like? Do you have girlfriends growing up, or I say you have friends that are helping you out?
I did have a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend. I ended up having 2 kids by her. And everything was. We always had a love-hate relationship. Things. Right. So we never. We was oil and water, man. So when 2 people are just alike, man. A lot of the times, man, you don't see the same path. So it is what it is, But prison did take a lot of strain on my kids and their relationship with the mother and everybody else involved.
Do you have any kind of relationship with the first 2, at least?
Well, my second one does. He has cerebral palsy, so that's another issue that I'm dealing with. But my first son, we had a relationship all the way up till probably halfway through my bed, and then me and the mother of my kids got into it again, and he went in her direction. So I do have somewhat, but it's not, nowhere the way I would like it to be.
I understand, Jameel Williams. Another hardship in your life.
Right. So that was the unfortunate pains I had to take, man, going to jail.
So tell me about getting shot at 20 years old. Hey, I've never been shot. Give me the experience, Jameel Williams.
Well, it was something. Well, in the book, I was. Basically, someone was confronting my friends, and like I said, us being, brothers and stuff, his beef is my beef. So when someone else confronted him, I stepped up to the plate. I had a gun on me at the time, and my other friend had a gun on me at the time. So, we were arguing with the guy, and I was basically wanted to just handle it. I was like, listen, man, y'all just go and I'll handle it. And my boys is like, stop, chill, don't do it. I'm like, we're right across from the police station, but we didn't care about the police station at that time. So, a lot of the shootings in Boston happened right in front of the police station. So I'm like, don't worry about that. Let's just go handle business. So my friend stopped me eventually 4 times, and I took my attention off the guy that I was trying to attack to, talk to my friends, and that's when I ended up getting shot.
So do you know who shot you and what happened to them?
Well, we shot each other. So after I got shot, I turned around and shot him.
Okay. You're talking about some wild, wild west stuff, man.
Well, that, like I said, that was every day. Every day it was a wild, wild west atmosphere. It was, you go to a club and someone starts shooting, you have 20 guns coming out from all different factors. That was the life we was living.
So, Jameel Williams, you're in front of the police station. The sheriff comes out with his 6 guns. What does he do to Jameel and the other shooter?
A lot of times the police wouldn't come out. So that's the thing is, like, the police let everything happen and they just pick up the pieces afterwards. Like, a lot of times there wasn't okay, like the movies where, oh, a shootout coming and they're running to the scene. That doesn't happen. In real life, they'll sit there and just let it happen and be like, okay, that person's hit. Okay, we'll go after the guys after they finish. You know what I mean? We're not just going to intervene. And a lot of times they're not just, they have, kids and wives to go through. They think about that as well.
So what are the repercussions of getting shot and shooting another person at this point, 20 years old? What happened?
Of getting shot? Well, excuse me, can you repeat that?
What happened after you got shot at 20 years old and you shot another person? Were there any repercussions? Did you have to go to court for this, go to jail?
Well, at
20 years old?
I was at 20 years old. You have to understand, I had probably already shot numerous people.
Yeah,
like
you've already stated that. I don't
right,
even know.
So I was like, right. So I was like, that was. I had got away with that. He got away with that, and life went on from there. There was probably shootings probably a couple of days later after that.
So you didn't have to go to a doctor, or they didn't have to report anything?
I went to the doctor. I was in the hospital for a week. I had a hole the size of a quarter when I did get out the hospital in my neck, and I healed. But the first day I got out, I was back at the club. I was back holding the gun, still doing the same thing with the hole in my neck.
Jameel Williams, you hear it on the TV, you see it in the movies. Every time you go to a hospital with a bullet wound, don't they have to report that?
Yeah, of course.
And then what happened?
But I never was one to talk to the police anyway, so it was just, I don't care about that. I wasn't going to tell who shot me, so I wasn't going to give the police any information. So
I'll play the cop. I'll play the cop. Mr. Jameel Williams, how'd you get this hole in your shoulder?
Go ask somebody else. I ain't got nothing to say.
I got nothing to say to you.
That's it. But that is usually the calm. That's usually the calm way of me talking. I'm usually more aggressive.
I guess.
Right, I never really liked, police questioning me to begin with. So they usually call me the smart aleck.
Hey, we're going through the very interesting life of Jameel Williams, the casual business moves. Man, I'm having a good time listening to your very interesting story. Man, you've had some experiences. You're only 20 years old at this point. You're a much older man now. I'm 50. So, I mean, you still got a whole another piece of your life ahead of you. Where do we go from 20 years old?
You have to understand, my book only goes to when I'm 26, and at that time I was sentenced, to murder, natural life. But I went to jail, not worried about anything, because I'd already lived 2 times over in my life. I felt like, the things that I had accomplished, people wasn't going to do that in a lifetime.
So what happened after 20 years old? And that
after
shooting,
20, I get out. I open a store. Life is good, man. The source really starts picking up.
What kind of a store?
Going to my dollar store.
Oh, you open up a store that sells things for $1.
Right, yeah, sell a dollar store. So basically a 99-cent store.
Like one of the chain stores, or you open your own?
No, but I opened up my own dollar store, back then. I just opened up a dollar store, which was doing really good in the hood.
That sounds, it sounds like it would do good. There's a lot of very inexpensive items there. You can go in there with $20 and come out with a bunch of items that you need for your house.
Right. So we, I did that, and.
Did you do that on your own, or how did that happen?
I did that on my own. Well, I had money, just wanted something to invest in, and that was one of the things I had my eyes on. And a previous friend had owned it before. They was doing good, and, something happened, and he basically did what the unspoken word is, and that was talk to the police back in the days.
Jameel Williams, it's amazing, and people don't know. Well, maybe they do know. You can get some money from quote-unquote illegal activities and turn it into something good. Here you open up a store in your community that's helpful to the community. It's something that the community needs. They need a store that sells products at low prices, and that's what you're providing. So how did that go? Okay, is it still going, or how did it go wrong?
Well, no, I ended up shutting it down. We ended up, so like I said, we was making a lot of money. So it came into a time where we had 7 different agencies investigating us, and a lot of them were financial agencies from the Secret Service on down. So when that came in, we was in the process of opening a sneaker store. A sneaker store. We was in process of opening a sneaker store right next door to it. But once the heat started coming down, you know, we ended up closing both of them.
Oh, here you had something that could have been legit. You could have gone straight, you know, and on the up and up. And because, why was it investigated? Because it was bought with illegal monies, or?
Right, yeah, well, you know, we at that, like I said at the time, we was doing a lot of illegal activities, man, especially in the white collar field. So, you know, they had been investigating us for years upon years, and they're like, listen, these guys basically have control and hold on Boston as far as, you know, when it comes to check scams. So when that came about, we just knew that they was gonna be, you know, investigating. We used to see them right outside our house, you know, like the Goodfellas show, and you knock on the van and say, "Come on." Mm-hmm. Yeah, we was really doing that. It's like,
I mean, so it's just having a storefront. It seems like a very good front for illegal activity. So I think that's probably why they were investigating. But here you
they was investigating us way before then.
Yeah, you had the chance to go legit, man. You were. I mean, was this because you were trying to get out of the check scamming, or was this because you had too much money burning?
No, we just had too much money, man. Just, you know, looking at, you know, I was used to taking trips, man, spending money on jewelry, just, you know, investing in things. Just wanted to do something, you know, that would be for the long haul, you know, something to invest in, man. I always was thinking about the kids, you know, always like, man, I want to do something that if I do fall, man, the kids have been taken care of. The kids have something, you know, that my legacy goes on when if I do die or something. You're in the streets, you never know what's going to happen.
All right. At this point, are you on your own, or do you at least have a lady friend that's keeping you somewhat grounded, telling you maybe you shouldn't do that kind of stuff? What's your? Well,
I've always had positive influences in my life. Everybody that was outside of the streets was always trying to push me into, you know, a life away from the streets. They always knew I was bright. They knew that, you know, I had a ray of sunshine just beaming on me. It's just that I wanted to live in the darkness, you know. So it's like it was a pull of two worlds, man. But yeah, I've always had positive influences in my life. I just, you know, chose the streets.
Yeah, you got your aunt saying, "Hey, man, you got computers over here. Come try this. You can make $30 an hour." Right. And you got mom in the nursing business. I'm sure she was trying to steer you in the medical field. There's lots of money to be made there. And Jamal Williams ain't having it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the time, you know what it is that I didn't have, like I said, the positive influences I needed to make the proper decisions at that time, you know.
Yeah.
Coming into the streets, if you come into an early age, man, and that's what you're used to, by the time you grow up to, you know, your mind develops as an adult, you've already become accustomed to, you know, a life of violence, a life of crime, you know, and it just doesn't seem bad. You know, it just seems like, okay, well, this guy's doing it next to me, that guy's doing it next to me. If I go down the street, they're doing it. So it's like, all right, well, this is the world you have to live in to navigate through the streets, man, you know?
Well, plus you're in your 20s and you're still made of rubber, man. You got Wolverine powers. You can heal. You've already proven that. 20 years old, you get shot, and bullets pretty much bounce right off you, man. So you're back, you know, and how did that change you? Did that getting out of the hospital, you said, you know what, maybe I need to go straight, or you kept on going? Where did it go from here, Jameel?
I kept on going hard. I mean, I kept on going. As soon as I got out the hospital, I was back in action. I wanted to, resume my position of, power on the street as far as a shooter,
Yeah.
And, like I said, my mind was warped back then. And that's all that, being the baddest person on the street was, the focus and the goal. Making money, being bad, and having the respect of my peers and the people around me. That's my focus, really.
You say your book, Wrong Turn Right, it goes through until you were 26. So from 20 to 26, how did those 6 years go for you?
I wrote 2 books. I have 2 books coming out. So Wrong Turn Right goes probably to 18. It goes to my getting out of prison. I go to prison and I get out of prison. And then Source of Information is my second book. So that's the sequel to Wrong Turn Right. So that Source of Information has basically all the celebrity stories. It has stories from the Source Awards, and me coming into myself as a man, and you start to see the difference of me changing a little bit.
So when did you write the book that took you to the age of 18?
I wrote both of the books within the last couple of years.
So why did you decide to split them into 2? Because it's all primarily going on your life. Because I could, I could see it, because there's a lot of life to have been lived for sure. But we still haven't gotten from 20 to 26 yet. So that's why
there's 2 books, and this is a trilogy of my life story, because it's like that goes to 26, and that's when I'm being charged with murder. So there's a whole lifetime about me getting convicted, me having to, go through countless of lawyers, me having, eventually to overturn my case. And basically at the end, with the DA gets fired, all of that comes into play. So I had my turn where the DA was basically fighting for his life on the stand.
So take us a little bit into that. How did, who was it that you were accused of murdering, and, or what type of person was it, if you don't want to name names or anything?
No, I mean, it's in my book. I don't care. So like I said, 5 days before, I caught my murder case, a friend of mine was murdered, and, we ended up seeking revenge, and that's how I ended up catching that case.
How old were you then?
I was 18, so I actually ended up flipping my case I was 17 at the time. So I ended up flipping my case on the new juvenile law.
And this is the first book, or is this getting into the second book?
Well, no, this is a book that's yet to be written.
Okay.
This is going to be the third book. So my first book goes to 18. My second book goes to me getting charged with murder for the first degree.
And there is no statute of limitations for murder, so this is the one that you did.
I pled guilty. I pled guilty to it, so I'm able to talk about it.
Okay. So tell me a bit more.
You're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go to a book. You're gonna have to go get the book to go see. So I told you a lot of stories, but a lot of them, I'm giving you the surface of the stories, and this is what I'm giving you is not even like a tenth of the book, man. You like you're gonna it's action and violence nonstop, but you'll see a change. It's like if you ever wanted to know what was going on in the mind of a criminal, this is a book for you. If you ever wanted to know, what was going on with your enemy, what your enemy was thinking, or someone that's a youth that needs some guidance before they get into the game. Like, I feel like this book can be a teaching moment for a lot of people, just because it relates to the street, and everybody thinks, oh, my situation is different, but a lot of these situations are the same. You you try to put your love into the game, into the streets, but the streets don't love anybody.
Jameel Williams, you learned this type of sales from a young age, from being a crack dealer. You gave me a little taste, and now I just want more. Now I want to read the whole book. Now I want to know, how do I get a hold of this book? And how many books? You say you have two. You have one that's out there, one that's coming out there.
I have two. I have two
that are out there.
I have two, and both of them. Both of them will be released probably on Amazon starting sometime in January, I want to say.
Man.
So
okay.
probably beginning of January, and they'll detail basically everything in my life. And, even when I go in jail, I get into, what was life like in jail, man, how you had to survive in jail, what could, set something off at any given moment. So if you ever just wondered what life would be like in the mind of a criminal that was going on, but I was one of the best at doing it, man. So you would want this book.
Well, there's quite a few years that are going to be discussed in that book, and those 3 books for that matter. But let's skip way forward. How you living now? Got a good job? Kids? Wife?
Yeah, right. Well, oh man, I'm working towards that. Getting married again. Getting a wife, but no kids. I haven't had any more kids since I came out. I started a business, One Way Auto Inc., which was a used cars dealership.
Okay.
I did that for a while. Now I just opened a published company, Casual Business Moves. So I'm looking to do clothing, books, and music through it. So I have a clothing line that I've been pushing, Gangsta Going Legit. You could go on the webpage and you'll probably see like all the celebrities holding up the shirt, from Snoop Dogg down to everybody, So yeah, we're just trying to push forward, be legit, man, and try to steer the youth from doing the same things and make the mistakes that I made.
All right, Jameel Williams, Casual Business Moves. I did find you on Facebook, and I found you on Instagram as well. Any other place?
I'm at Vacado 88 on Instagram, and Vacado 88 on Facebook. I will be opening a website, casualbusinessmoves.com. It should be open later on this week or in a week and a half or so. And yeah, you can find me also at Vacado88@gmail.com.
I'm glad that you're working on that website, because I tried to go to the website and it says hacked. So
so no, I've been leaving it that way, and I've been working on it behind the scenes, so it's up and running, everything straight. And yeah, I've been just making sure everything's together, so I want everything to come out and just pop all at once. I've been doing podcasts and, appearances all over, so I look forward to, making this brand go, hopefully, globally.
Jameel Williams, I can see that you're going out there. You're trying to make a go of it, making it straight. And I'm so glad, so happy for you that you moved into this Casual Business Move media, and it's doing T-shirts and books. You're publishing. Have you helped anybody else along the way publishing their books?
Yeah. So right now I do have a couple of books in the making. I'm looking for my brand, obviously, my books to, be the focus point of the brand. So once my books come out and they start to settle down, I'll be releasing like 2 to 3 more authors' books.
Excellent, Jameel Williams. That's how we get ahead in this world, man. Helping each other out. That's the only way we're going to get ahead, man. You cannot step on people. You got to grab them by the hand and bring them up with you, man. That's how we all win. All right. Well, it seems like you got life straight. How do people? You've already given an idea of how do people find you online and get a hold of these books, in the ones that are coming out soon and the ones even further into the future. I'm going to put all these links in the show notes so people know exactly how to get a hold of Jameel Williams, the Casual Business Moves media man. You've had a life so far, man. Tell me more. What?
Tell everybody, listen, look forward to the books coming out. They'll be coming out mid January, maybe earlier than that, but they're definitely, ear catching, mind catching, and you must read them. So go ahead and get them.
Like I said, man, I've got a little taste, and all I want to do is know more. Now, I listen to a lot of books on tape, man. Are you thinking about putting them out there? Hopefully, do them in your voice.
Yes. Well, I am doing audio tape, so those should be coming soon, and probably a little bit later than the release date, but they'll definitely be available. So I'll be doing ebooks probably with my Amazon release date.
Hey, I know I put you on the spot on that one, Jameel Williams. That's how us kids, of the tender age of 50 years old, listen to books on tape.
Right. No, I've actually already started the process of doing the audio books, but that's like a process, so that's gonna be a process. So,
oh yeah, it's time consuming, man.
Right. So I'm definitely gonna have that for the consumers, and I want them to, hear it in my voice, man, so they can see the excitement that I have with my words and basically, feel themselves in the moment that I'm trying to present.
Absolutely, Jameel Williams. Listen to the story from the storyteller himself, man. All right, we've talked quite a bit, man, and I appreciate your story so much, man. Give the people the last words, man. You got any last words for the people?
Well, I'm just, I'm grateful for any support I can get. I'm happy alone just writing a book. That's an accomplishment in itself, and I look forward to hopefully providing more books that they can enjoy, and hopefully I get great reviews from it. Enjoy.
Well, there you have it, party people. Jameel Williams, Casual Business Moves Media. Find him everywhere. I put the links in the show notes. He gave us a little taste of what his life is, of what's in those books. A little taste, and now you want to devour the whole thing. It's life. It's an interesting life. And he told me a little bit more after we were off the air. So, there's more to it. There's a whole lot more to the story. And I look forward to the audiobook. I know I put him on the spot on that one, but I like to listen to my books on tape. And I say on tape. It's all digital now. What is a tape, Grandpa? Jameel Williams, thank you so much for being on the program. What makes you famous? Casual Business Moves Media. I could see it. Ever forward. You're on the straight and narrow. And we talked a little bit about drugs. Drugs are subjective now. So a lot of them are being regulated. And the more that the government regulates, the safer their distribution will be. I don't think I've ever done a drug on purpose. If anything's ever been slipped to me, I have no idea. I had a half a beer once. I've smelled marijuana. I like the smell of it. Sometimes it smells really bad, but I've been around drugs. In the DJ business, I know that there's drugs around. I know that there's people in the bathrooms doing drugs at some of these places, but it's all subjective. It's all subjective. The more it gets regulated, the safer it'll be for the users of these things. I guess I'm up in the air on whether to legalize it. I think legalizing it, you'd probably stop a lot of the drug wars. The history shows that when alcohol was prohibited, there was a lot of wars. But then as soon as the prohibition was lifted, everybody went to the bar and had a beer, I think. So war's over. All right. I know. I went a little bit deep on that one. I think I went out into the weeds. Thanks again, Jameel Williams, for being on the program. What makes you famous? If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call at 501-470-6386 or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here. If you like what you hear, follow What Makes You Famous social media. Use the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Follow on Facebook at What Makes You Famous. Follow on Instagram at What Makes You Famous. Follow on Twitter at Makes Famous. And follow on YouTube at Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Famous podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Famous podcast on Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and almost anywhere you find podcasts. Tell your story on my podcast, What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time. You can support What Makes You Famous using the PayPal link, paypal.me/KeysDan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Famous podcast is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening. Radio What? The music you want with some great quotes. Most men pursue pleasure with such breathless haste that they hurry past it. Soren Kierkegaard. The music you want. RadioWhat.com. Tweet, yo. Follow Radio What on Twitter at Radio What Twit. Tweet, yo.